This video is brought to you by the Sonoran Desert Institute. That's right, folks, we have a new channel sponsor. Pretty cool. If you're sitting around right now and you're thinking, man, I should go back to school, I could get a degree in art history or feministic dance theory. No, hey, stop. That's a dumb idea. You can't feed a family with that, but you could feed your family playing with guns for a living. And if you don't know exactly how to make that happen, the Sonoran Desert Institute can give you an accredited degree to get you on your way. So check below in the description for a link to the Sonoran Desert Institute. And why don't we just go ahead and make a video now? Here we go. All right, what's happening, guys? Welcome back. We're not doing gun stuff today. We're taking a time out to do a warrior poet profile. You guys request them all the time. I've slacked off with them. If this isn't the kind of content you're into, check out the next video. If you come for this stuff, this is the stuff that I really like the most. So, anyway, I didn't plan on telling you about this person because there was so much I disliked about him. His story kind of left me hanging, so that long after I finished the last page about his life, I continued to be haunted by it. So maybe I have to tell you about him just so I can move on. You can call it closure maybe. But mostly, after I tell you an outline of who he was, I want to leave you with two critical lessons from his life. And these lessons aren't commonly known or recited, I think, but they can definitely keep us from coming to absolute ruin in our own lives. So, our hero is also a villain who lived in the 5th century BC, and his name was Alcibiades. His name is less known today, probably because it's hard to say. But holy cow, guys, this guy was possibly one of the most magnetic and charismatic war captains of all time. Now, if you can't pronounce his name, I don't think you're likely to try to remember him. So humor me and let's say it together. Alcibiades. Alcibiades. That's it. Very good. I know. Hashtag dad joke. Alcibiades was the protege of Socrates and even fought battles beside Socrates, which I thought was super cool because for those of you who didn't know the great philosopher Socrates also stacked bodies in his youth, there's a nerdy little Easter egg for you. I'm reading a historical fiction by Stephen Pressfield called The Tides of War. Well, I already read it, but anyway, this is what we're citing. I wanted to start by reading the historical note in the beginning, and then we'll move on to those important lessons that I just said. So here we go. By their epochal victories over the Persians in 490, 480, and 479 BC, Sparta and Athens established themselves as the preeminent powers in Greece and the Aegean, Sparta on land, Athens at sea. For half a century, these states maintained a tenuous equilibrium. At Athens, these years inaugurated the golden age of Periclean democracy. The Parthenon was constructed. The tragedies of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides commenced performance. Socrates began to teach. By 431, however, Athens' power had become too great for the free states of Greece to endure. War came, that struggle called by Thucydides the greatest in history, which lasted, as the oracle had foretold, thrice 9 years, 27 years, and ended with the capitulation of Athens in 404. One man had set his stamp upon this conflict, for good or ill, beyond all others. This was Alcibiades of Athens, kinsman of Pericles, intimate of Socrates. He was, the ancient sources attest, the handsomest and most brilliant man of his era, as well as the most lawless. As a general, he was never beaten. Alcibiades was head and shoulders taller than his peers. The most handsome, winsome man the people had ever laid eyes on, beautiful flowing hair, beautiful beard. As for strength and skill in battle, people compared him to Achilles and the great Pericles. His brilliance in war as a strategist, people compared him later, because Alexander lived after him, but to Alexander the Great. The people loved him and they hated him. And his interaction with the people of Athens, it reminds me a bit of a domestic dispute on an episode of Cops. So, a couple is fighting and the cops get called, and when they show up, she reaches out and says, "Don't take him, I love him." So it was with Athens, would turn against Alcibiades, who would then leave to go fight instead for the Spartans until Athens begged him to come back to them. Anyway, kind of funny drama there, but his good attributes were written larger than life, but they were matched by his constant whoring and drunkenness. He was a mess, but still they idolized him, and he led them to unthinkable, daring, bold victories, but also to ultimate disaster. The book, The Tides of War, is narrated by Alcibiades' closest friend and his future assassin. His friend became his assassin. Now, just to give you a taste of the internal conflict regarding Alcibiades, which now I share with the narrator, here's the narrator's quote concerning him. Any moment now. "If I am guilty, Athens is too. What did I perform, save that what she desired? As the city loved him, so did I. As she hated him, I did too. Let us tell that story of the spell he cast over our state and how that bewitchment led us to ruin, all in the same basket." Alcibiades led the Athenian appetite for conquest. Athens and Alcibiades, they weren't content to just love and defend their own land like their Spartan neighbors. Rather, they set out to conquer the world. So Alcibiades might have even pulled it off, but his enemies at home turned on him. This led him to abandon his homeland, and as they went out conquering without him, they would ultimately be crushed by their neighbors around the Aegean and the Persians to the north. So if you want to know more, read the book, link below in the description, because it's time to actually turn to those two major lessons I'm taking from his story, which we can benefit from. The first is this: if we idolize someone, eventually we demonize them. This is actually a quote from one of the world's greatest evangelists and theologians, in my opinion, by the name of Jonathan Edwards. And I think this perfectly applies to Alcibiades. What Edwards had in mind was that people make poor messiahs, as only Jesus can ultimately be worshipped. But anyway, people love to see an idol. Like, there's Britney Spears topping the charts, and now she shaves her head and checks into a mental institution, and people love to see both of those things. A young person becomes infatuated with someone, but when they find out that that person's actually interested in their best friend, all that passion immediately turns to hatred. A father who you desperately wanted to make proud of you, now you hardly speak to, and the pastor you thought was perfect, you found out wasn't, and now you can never forgive them for it. If you idolize someone, eventually we demonize them. So the lesson I'm taking away from here is don't idolize anyone, and don't allow yourself to be someone else's idol. You will let them down, and then they will hate you for it, right? The second one is guard ambition and don't have too much of it. Man, this guy was just brimming with ambition, and he was magnetic, and people wanted to follow him. But man, ambition can accomplish great things, but in the end, it'll consume you. It'll destroy you and those closest to you. Ambition is good until it's not. There's a tipping point somewhere in there. When you no longer have ambition, it has you. So, learning from Alcibiades, I need to have ambition, but never let it take the seat of what's most important to me. So for me, it's God, it's wife, it's kids, it's closest friends. That's the important stuff. And ambition crouches ready to burn it all to the ground. So anyway, guys, this was a rough outline, a warrior poet profile of Alcibiades, hero and villain of the Peloponnesian War in the 5th century BC. It's been a grand old time. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, come on, what are you waiting for? Just playing. But anyway, comment, like, all that good stuff. Share the video, and I'll see you next time. See you guys.